Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today is a sort of a part two of day 100 of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and I had been asked to explain some of the symbology that you see on the map in front of you. And I would be more than happy to do that. And I'll try to do my best in terms of kind of explaining what these units are and what their composition is, or what I believe their composition is. And obviously I'm not 100% correct, and hopefully in the 90% range. But we'll start and we'll just kind of look. Obviously these are NATO. This is NATO symbology for the most part. There are some things that are being used by the Ukrainians that are kind of outside of the scope of what would be traditionally used. But we'll start and we'll look at an ordinary tank brigade. So right here, I just clicked on the 3rd Tank Brigade of the Ukrainian Army. Generally speaking, these will contain 2 to 3 tank battalions. Obviously, because of the war, this is changing and could change in terms of how some of these brigades are built, especially with attached territorial units and even National Guard units that could be attached to these units. So we really don't know what they look like, and they could look a little bit different. But generally speaking, you're looking at anywhere from an understrength brigade of about 1,000 men all the way up to the possibility of upwards to 4,000 to 5,000 personnel. So 3rd Tank Brigade, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 tank battalions and 1 or 2 attached mechanized infantry battalions. Next, closest to kind of the 3rd Tank Brigade is we'll look at this unit, which is the 81st Air Mobile Brigade. Now, when you say air mobile or airborne infantry, you immediately think that these guys are running around in helicopters or parachuting into combat. That is not the case in terms of what is occurring within the context of the Ukrainian military. Most likely, what you see is probably 3 air mobile infantry battalions that are have been actually mechanized. They are just like their Russian counterparts, are now riding around on BMP-1s, 2s, BTR-4s, the Ukrainian build, or BTR-80s, 70s, older BTR-60s, maybe even up-armored trucks and that sort of thing, MRAPs, mine-resistant vehicles. So you don't know, and but more likely than not, you're seeing about 3 to 4 battalions with attached supporting elements as well. Over here, this is a motorized rifle brigade, and you can see the difference between the motorized rifle and the mechanized. There is quite a bit of difference in terms of force construct. Again, you're probably looking at 3 to 4 infantry battalions, as opposed to riding around on BMP-1s, BMP-2s, other heavier mechanized infantry vehicles. They're probably cruising around on trucks. Maybe some wheeled armored personnel carriers like BTRs or what have you. And then they also have an attached tank company. Now, there is differences between the motorized rifle brigades within the Ukrainian military, especially now. So the possibility does exist. They could look quite a bit different. Over here, this is an airborne brigade. So you have the 25th Airborne Brigade as well. And so what's interesting, these and the person who created this map obviously is designating the same symbology. Air mobile in the West, United States, that tends to be air assault units, helicopter assault units. Then airborne are traditional airborne infantry that jump out of airplanes. So helicopters versus airplanes. Simple. But in this case, they're not jumping out of airplanes and they're not riding around in helicopters for the most part. Again, 25th Airborne, 3 to 4 battalions, maybe an attached tank company. We've even heard of upwards to a tank battalion being attached to some of these Ukrainian forces, airborne forces, air mobile forces as well. And just a really kind of a unique thing that we see with Ukrainian and Russian forces too, is this is almost like a separate service force. So you have the Ukrainian ground forces, where you would have the mechanized brigades, the motorized rifle brigades, the tank brigades, and then you have the air mobile forces and the airborne infantry forces, which are kind of like its own separate entity into itself. And what else do we have here? We can see here we have a Marine battalion, obviously 3 to 4 infantry companies, probably 300 to 600 personnel of Ukrainian naval infantry that are usually come under the control of naval forces. But in this case, they're probably under the direct command of the theater commander for the eastern area of operations. And we have the 128th Air Assault Mountain. I'm sorry, 128th Mountain Assault Brigade. So in all likelihood, again, 3 to 4 infantry battalions or mountain assault battalions. These are more or less light infantry formations that could be motorized as well. In all probability, they are. They have attached trucks if they have not been destroyed, and probably are being deployed more or less in urbanized or defensive positions in built-up areas and or forests. And we'll continue to look around here and see what we have. This is the 111th Defense Brigade, and again, we kind of zoom in. Well, we can't really zoom in, but you can kind of see the symbology, the standard infantry symbol with a L under it. So not quite what you would see with NATO symbology, but this is what we're kind of right now using to designate this as a territorial defense brigade. These are the volunteer forces that have volunteered for the Ukrainian military, and they are basically a combination of reservists and they could be also conscripted forces as well. There's mass mobilization going on, but traditionally speaking, when you see a said unit with the 111th Defense Brigade, it's a territorial reserve type of unit that has been called up, strictly leg infantry, possibly some limited motorization as well. Then you have these security brigades. So right here you have the 27th Separate Brigade of the Ukrainian National Guard, and this has been designated as a Transport Protection Brigade. And like their Russian counterparts, the Ukrainians have its own internal security force, separate of the Army, ground forces, airborne forces, special operation forces, and this is actually separate from the armed forces, and this falls under the National Guard. So unlike the United States National Guard, where these are part-time soldiers, these are actually full-time soldiers that are in this more of this federalized special police force that exists. But they also do have, depending on that, so for instance, this unit right here, the 4th Rapid Response Brigade of the National Guard, these units do have mechanized capability, meaning the attached 3 to 4 mechanized infantry battalions or National Guard infantry battalions can be motorized with armored fighting vehicles, BMP-2s, BTRs, and other up-armored wheeled vehicles as well. And they've also been known to have attached tank units as well, company to battalion size strength. Again, we don't know what that looks like now because of the ongoing fighting. And a lot of these units could be bigger, they could be smaller, they could have a host, they could even have some of these nationalist battalions, these right sector forces that the Russians tend to call them Nazis. Doing my Brad Pitt impression, I'm sorry. But that's the Donbass Battalion right there, and there's a multitude of these units that exist. 4th Company Ukrainian Volunteer Corps, and for the purposes of this map, anytime you see these were the irregular formations that kind of stood up post 2014, and these units were pivotal in some of I would say some of the more brave units that immediately came to the call to fight Russian forces in 2014, and then obviously later on. And this right here is the Special Purpose Regiment Azov, probably out of Kiev as well. Another one of those 98th Azov Battalion, 108th Defense Brigade. So they're probably expanding as this conflict goes on too. And so anything with these shields that does not look like a NATO symbology is some of these irregular formations. But at the same time, some of these irregular formations aren't really irregular. They've become an established component of the Ukrainian military infrastructure, and they'll be attached to regular army units or attached to regular National Guard units as well in the past. But that's pretty much it. You can see there's a helicopter unit, 25th Transport Brigade. What is that? 19th Rocket Brigade. So yeah, you can kind of tell. It looks like a rocket. This box with a dot in it usually designates an artillery unit, and that's really kind of across the spectrum in terms of all armed forces around the world when you see that. Another security, 21st Public Protection Brigade, and that, again, that's not a ground forces unit of the Ukrainian Army. That is a National Guard unit, the special federal police force types of unit. Over here, Special Operations Forces, obviously SOF, and you see the box and you see the 3 sticks, right? That means it is a regiment, and you'll see there 3rd Regiment Special Purpose, and that belongs to the Ukrainian Special Operations Command. So kind of a different force structure that's separate from the ground forces, but obviously works directly with the ground forces, or they're part of the Ukrainian intelligence agency as well. And what do we have here? This is a little shield, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Company Special Police Force. So I assume this is some sort of special forces units that is attached to the National Guard. You can see 1 stick there. That means it's a company. So 1 stick company, 2 sticks, 1 stick company, 2 sticks battalion, 3 sticks regiment. X over the square means brigade. If you were to see 2 X's, that would be a division. So I know most of you know that. But I think that pretty much sums it up. Here, go back up here. Another National Guard unit, 1st State Facilities Protection Battalion. Now that's interesting. This is being designated a battalion when it's the unit symbology designates it a regiment. So if you look, you got a square, security, 3 sticks, usually means a regiment, but for whatever reason, well, at the top here is designated a battalion. But this is the force that's really kind of designed. It's a National Guard formation that was designed to protect the nuclear power facility north of Kiev, Chernobyl. And I think, again, I pretty much covered everything that exists in terms of what some of these units were looking like. Of course, here on the map, most everything that you see is brigade size formation. Just think 1,000 to 5,000 personnel, depending on how damaged it's been in the military, in the ongoing war, and if it's been reinforced or augmented with territorials or reserve components as well. But pretty decent map. Probably more accurate in terms of Ukrainian force deployment as opposed to Russian force deployment at this time. It's very difficult to say what that really looks like. Oh, and then one more thing of note here. The box with the slash going down, and it's designated 2 sticks as a battalion. You can see they're designating these, which would normally be under a NATO symbology, or you'd have to really kind of go back to World War II or predating that. That is a cavalry symbol, and way back in many decades ago, when we were still utilizing horses, now these are usually motorized units, but in this case, it's being designated as the 74th Intelligence Battalion. So, and then here too, again, they're taking these cavalry designations and turning them into an intelligence designation for some reason. So, not sure why that's occurring, but for purposes of this map, that's kind of what they've done on this map. So, not everything is correct in terms of completely accurate NATO symbology, but it really gives you a pretty good idea of what you're looking at. You know, motorized, mechanized, armor, special forces, mountain infantry, what have you. But that is, I believe, pretty much it. seeing if they had the Jager unit, and again, that's 61st Jager Brigade, and that is a light infantry unit. It was deployed kind of northwest of Kiev, and it was used quite often in forested areas, and for the most part, light infantry. And these guys gave the Russians fits up here northwest of Kiev. I do know that. But that's pretty much it. And, I hope answered some questions, a few at least. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, everybody.